All right. Well, I hope everyone's having a great holiday season so far. I know I am. So, I want to bring yet another addition to my German police pistol lineup, and this is one I found relatively recently, and I'm quite happy that I was able to get it. So, what we have is should I get that in frame there? This is a Walther P4. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, wow, that looks a lot like a P38 or a P1 pistol. And, it is quite similar in a lot of ways, but slightly different as well. So the P4 is another iterative development on the cycle or family of pistols, the P38 line of pistols that would ultimately result in the final iteration of the P38, the P5, as you can see here. These are quite similar. So I've already covered my P5 before, so the P4 is what came before it, of course. So the P4 is very slightly different from your P38s and P1s in a few different ways. Some of the more noticeable ones is the fact that the safety lever appears no longer a safety. It is a decock only. So if I cock the hammer back like this, on a normal P1, when you decock this, it will typically stay down in a safe position, but this one does not. It actually rebounds. So if you're familiar with like the Beretta 92 series of the G model, it's basically the same concept, decocker only. It springs right back up when you depress it. So that's one change. The other change is also the rear sight and the loaded chamber indicator plate, if you want to call it that system. So as you see up here on the top, there is no gigantic plate like you have on your P38s. Instead, they simplified that and made it one piece here, so it's all together now. No possibility of that flying off in the middle of combat. And they also redid the sight here in the back. As you can see, it has a little Phillips head screw in there to hold the rear sight in place. The barrel itself is also a teeny bit shorter than your P1s and P38s. As you can see, it's very, very hard to kind of just visualize the barrel length difference just from looking at it. But if you actually do compare it, it actually is a teeny bit shorter. Not as short as a P38K, but still shorter. So I think the total overall length of this barrel is, I want to say 4 inches or 4.1, but a tiny bit shorter. Other than that, though, it functions pretty much the same as your P1, P38s. So same action, everything. Aluminum frame that doesn't weigh hardly anything. And I've got some cool markings here on the frame that you can see right there. I can't get too close to the camera because it doesn't really show up that well, but you can see it has the surplus marks on there. There's also the marks up here on the slide, and the big milling mark here that is very common for P4s when these were surplus out of service. They typically ground out the government marks here. So a very common thing to see on P4s. The front of the barrel assembly as well also has the marks right there, as you can see. See if the light kind of shines a little bit right there. So you get the little circle mark up there, and you have the two, I'm guessing, acceptance marks here in the front as well. And then the other side of the slide, we of course have the last 3 serial numbers, so 001, that's pretty cool. The other circle dot mark, the Walther banner, and then of course P4 with the manufacturing date there on the side. Now this is a different marking from the commercial versions of the P4 because the commercial versions of the P4 has like big old roll marks here on the side and everything that denotes it as a commercial model. It of course will not have the surplus marks here or this milling cut here that indicate that this was a police gun. So there are commercial ones out there, so if you're looking for a specific one, either commercial or a police surplus one, definitely look out for those markings. The front sight as well is a little bit different in the sense that it is dovetailed in there, but Walther also has a numbering system for different heights of front sight that you can get. So I don't know if that'll show up there, but there is a number 2 that's right there on the front sight. Number 2, yep. And so I'm assuming at the armorer level they had various heights of or styles of front sight that you could put on the gun here. So, but for me, I'm gonna leave it as is. So, yeah, I was really looking for a police surplus P4 because there was actually a commercial P4 sitting in town here that was absolutely excellent condition. You know, had the box and everything, looked really, really nice. But in going with my theme of my German police pistols, I wanted, of course, a police surplus one, actual true blue police surplus. So I kind of passed on the commercial one until eventually this one also came up in my favorite shop. Of course it did, of course, for not a bad price at all, considering how rare these things can be. I believe the sources say there was only about 8,000 of these things made in total, and I'm sure even less were imported into the United States. So to find one in basically like new condition, like this one is, you know, as old as these things are and what they've been through and what they've been used for, I mean, it's that was pretty awesome to find it in this condition. So obviously these are not the original grips either. This is, of course, from Grips for You. It matches the other style of grips I have on all of my other, German police guns that I have, because I kind of wanted to stick with the theme, and the grips are actually just really, really high quality. They've been working absolutely excellently for me. I mean, they just look awesome. They feel great. I think they improve the grip and the functionality of the pistols. They just feel really, really good in hand, and they all look fantastic. Not exactly the cheapest thing in the world, but I mean, when you're paying for this level of quality, durability, and everything else that I've had with these grips for the few years that I've used them, totally worth the money if you ask me. And of course, I do keep the original grips. So let me see if I can get those. I do, of course, keep the original black plastic grips that this came with. Good thing is, with the P4s, they use, of course, the same grip pattern as P38s and P1s. So if you have P38, P1 grips, they will absolutely fit on a P4 frame. So that's pretty cool. Shooting wise, so I have some experience shooting P38s and P1s. Not a whole lot, because I've never actually owned one, a style of that gun until, this one, basically. I have shot a few of my friends' P1s, though, and it's an interesting shooting experience for sure, because there's a ton of mass up here in the top of the slide. So if you, take this apart here, if I remember how to do this. So lock it back here, and of course, just like the P1, you have a little takedown lever here. So rotate that forward, and then let the slide go, pull the trigger, and it comes right off. So, yeah, like I said, this works just like a P1, P38. So you can see here, man, this frame just doesn't weigh anything. So you got your dual recoil springs here on either side, of course. Aluminum frame. It's got that reinforcing, I guess, hex pin, whatever you want to call it, cross pin there that reinforces the frame. That was, of course, a later addition for the P1s to kind of make these a little bit more durable than the original ones. So it does have that. Other than that, I mean, it's your basic, frame. So it doesn't weigh hardly anything. The inside here, of course, the barrel assembly will slide out, so I'll try to be careful with that. But I mean, it's a regular slide. But yeah, you can see just how thick and heavy this thing is. Kind of reminds me of the P38 fat slides, as they call them, when they beef those up for the wartime production to make them, of course, more durable. But yeah, you can see the internal parts here. Looks just like your standard, P38, P1, kind of with the falling block action here. That's kind of reminiscent of the Beretta 92 series as well. So yeah, not really a whole lot to say for the internals. So we'll put that back together here. If I can get it together. Come on. There we go. Of course, with this, you got to be careful too to make sure the block is in the correct position so it doesn't hit the frame when you're trying to slide the slide back on. Just lock that back, rotate that back, bingo bango, you're back together. Cool. So for parts compatibility, I imagine a lot of the P38 parts are actually cross-compatible with this one. I'm not exactly sure the exact level or how many of those parts are cross-compatible, but given how similar this is to the older ones, I would assume quite a few are. For magazines, of course, unfortunately, the P5 magazines are not backwards compatible with the P38 line, which is a little unfortunate because they are so similar to each other. I mean, if you look at, here's a P5 magazine, and here's a P38 or P1 mag. They're almost identical, but they're just so slightly different in how they stack up and how they lock up in the gun. So maybe I can try to illustrate that here. So if I try to hold these things together, you can see one magazine is ever so slightly taller than the other, and that does actually matter because of the heel magazine release that both of these guns have. It just doesn't quite lock up correctly. So if I try to put this P5 magazine in the P4 here, it'll lock into the bottom here, but it will not feed correctly in the P4. Trust me, I've tried. So that's a little unfortunate, but P38 and P1 magazines are absolutely all over the place. They are super common. They've been around obviously for decades and decades, so there's no problem in finding magazines for this gun. It will take P38, P1 magazines. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen an actually like P4 marked magazine, because this magazine that came with the gun actually is marked on the base P1, and it must be a later production model as well, because this is a very nice kind of all blued steel magazine versus the other mags that I have. Let's see. I've got a P38. This is an actual P38 magazine here. Old, Parkerized steel. Kind of not as smooth and not as nicely made as this newer blued one. And then I've got an older P1 magazine that's also, not blued, but kind of like just your regular kind of rough Parkerized steel magazine. So there's a wide range of P38 magazines out there, all of which will work just fine in the P4. So that's awesome. Not like trying to find a specific P5 magazine that fits in the P5, because they're ever so slightly different. So for shooting experience, the trigger on this definitely feels like a military trigger. I would say it's not as nice as the P5, either in the double action or single, but it's perfectly shootable. Like it's not too heavy. It's if you fired a P30 or P1, it feels pretty much exactly the same. So very, very serviceable trigger. I wouldn't call it like a super duper awesome match competition trigger or anything like that, but certainly for the role it was designed to be, that is a police gun, perfectly serviceable. No complaints there. The sights are kind of moving towards the rear kind of, well, I'll just show you. So this style of sight here has the typical like U-notch, rear notch like that, but it has the white kind of post there in the center of the notch. And you line that up with the white dot here in the front to create kind of like a dot the eye kind of situation sight picture, just like you see there. Or creating a solid white post, whatever you want to call it. That style of sight picture was pretty common for its time. Walther was particularly fond of it. As you can see on the P5, it has the exact same sight picture there, dotting that white eye. So for accuracy and shooting, so I actually found that this most European pistols, especially surplus ones that I have, tend to hit a little high, like they are calibrated for a 6 o'clock hold. This one absolutely was not. This was a American style shooting, kind of like cut your target in half. Like if it's a circle, I put my sight picture pretty much cutting the circle in half to hit center. And that's how this one was for sure. So bit of a surprise for me when I was shooting it, because it was hitting a little low because I had a 6 o'clock hold. But yeah, I'm sure it's just the sight height and how this was set up. A little unusual from the rest of my pistols, but accuracy at 10 yards was same hole and hole, no problem at all. The recoil was interesting because it was snappier than I thought it was going to be, considering I've shot P1s before, and I don't remember them being this snappy, but it's not like super bad or anything. It's just you definitely feel a difference when you got your grip there and you're shooting, because like I said, all the mass is up here in the slide, so this thing it's moving. So if you watch like Larry Vickers, I believe, has a video on the P4 as well, and if you watch his slow motion shots, you'll see just how much recoil this thing actually has when it's moving. It's obviously, it's a 9mm. It's old style gun like this, but it's noticeable to be sure. At 25 yards, so I was not able to get like super great accuracy at 25 yards with this, because I just don't have a whole lot of experience shooting this style of pistol. And of course, like I said, the sights were not exactly calibrated for that distance either. So, I was getting middling accuracy, your standard like kind of 4-inch group, 5-inch group at 25 yards, which isn't great. But I know mechanically this pistol is absolutely capable of doing something better than that. So, if P5 can get itty bitty tiny groups at 25 yards, I'm sure this P4 can as well. I just I need more practice and get some more reps in with this gun to really see what it's capable of. So, but I'm sure mechanically speaking, everything is just fine. Because, like I said, when I got this thing and I took it all apart and inspected it, this thing was basically brand new on the inside. It was clean. So, whoever was taking care of this before, I do appreciate you taking care of this gun, and so that way I can I can appreciate it and have my fun with it, and of course take care of it myself. So, future generations can also enjoy this not so common piece. So, overall, in a lot of ways, this really did remind me of my P5 and past P1s that I've shot. So a lot of people did mistake this at the range, like, oh man, nice P38. I'm like, well, actually, it's a P4. It's a little bit different, but to the casual observer and first glance, yes, this will very easily be mistaken for a P38. So kind of has that classic look to it. But yeah, this is just another great example of like old school Walther quality, manufacturing, look, feel, aesthetics, all that stuff. Just awesome. Really, really pleasant gun to shoot. It's just a nice piece, So I was very happy to be able to find not only like the exact model that I wanted, which was a police surplus one, but also in this condition for the price that I got it for. Can't complain. Can't complain at all. So now I have yet another addition to my P series of German police pistols. So now I got to find a P1. I mean, that's easy enough, right? A P1, a P2, a P3. At some point, I have to get a P8, a P9, and a P10. But, those are some longer term goals. And of course, I will outfit them with the same wooden grips as much as possible. So, yeah. Thought I'd bring this, like I said, not exactly a common piece and just ever so slightly different from your usual P38, P1. Line of pistols, and in relation to how the P5 turned out. So, So I look forward to shooting this gun a little bit more, and getting really good with it, just like my other German police pistols. So, this thing will just last forever and ever. So, yeah, old school manufacturing quality. Can't beat it these days. So. Anyway, if you run across one of these things, just know these things are not especially common. It's it's not your run-of-the-mill P38, P1, it's 99% the shooting experience of the same other pistols as well. So if you have a P1, if you have a P38, it's pretty much going to shoot exactly the same as your P4. So anyway, I thought I'd bring that to you guys because, like I said, I'm happy to have yet another member of the P series pistols to add to my collection, especially now that I've also got the wooden grips on here to match the rest of them. So at some point, maybe I need to do a review on grips for you as well, and just kind of like the whole website and everything, and my experience with them and stuff like that. So anyways, so I hope everyone has a great holiday season and has a great Christmas as well, and a happy New Year's. So this is probably like the last bit of shooting I'll do for this calendar year, and hopefully next year proves to be just as interesting, just as cool. Find some cool pieces, or maybe just enjoy the ones I already have. So anyway, that's all I gotta say about that, and we'll see you next time.